It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river with Honda eco-friendly engines. They're saving admissions at Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. All the information you could ever possibly want and or need is available at joeskarting.com. We've got a big show lined up for you today, so we're not going to beat around the bush. We're just going to get straight into it. Turn number one, we will preview everything that happened at Pocono, a few of the news stories that came out of the day of racing on Monday, and then in turn number two, we'll talk with Joe Kosiski of I-80 Speedway to preview the month of June and July and talk about their race schedule to come in those months. Turn number three, we'll talk with weekly driver out at Knoxville Raceway and a regular on the NSL 410 Sprint Series. That's Dakota Hendrickson out of Bellevue, Nebraska. We'll talk to him, and he'll help us preview the World of Outlaws at I-80 Speedway on June 22nd. Finally, in turn number four, we will get to Michigan. A big race for a lot of drivers as the list of drivers who have won gains, and some of the other drivers, you're starting to feel the heat. We got to get a win, and we got to get a win now.
Well, we're on that second half of the 26.
Right,
so.
of the regular season. We're on the second back end of it now, and they've only got, 12 races. 12 races, including today, 12 races to get into the chase. And so it's going to start to kind of ramp up and get a little hot and heavy. So let's talk about Pocono. Unfortunately, we're going to have to kind of limp through this a little bit. I was able to listen to it via the MRN app, which I absolutely love, and I really enjoyed Pocono. I think it's because I didn't have to listen to Fox. But what a race. I tell you, there was times these guys, I couldn't see it, but I could just hear it in MRN's broadcast about their 3 wide, 4 wide, and there really seemed to be an issue with turn number one. And I remember hearing Tony Stewart say that, in the preview to Pocono, which we kind of talked about last weekend, was that when you go down that front stretch, it's so wide, and you've got all this room, but it narrows into a hairpin into turn number one.
Well, the racing groove narrows. I mean, the track's still 4 miles wide, but there's only about 3 feet you can race in.
And we saw a lot of issues as drivers were coming out of turn number one and getting collected into the wall, sliding up, losing grip, collecting each other. And also turn two seemed to be a real issue. I didn't hear much with turn three. Maybe there was. I just didn't catch it as I was trying to make notes. But it seemed like there was some amazing racing action. And the only thing that I hate about this race is the thing that I hate about one of the few things I hate about NASCAR is when it comes down to fuel mileage. It's not an exciting race. But it kind of can be. I mean, if you get into that fuel mileage, because to kind of fast forward a little bit, Kurt Busch takes the lead, and I can't remember on what lap he took the lead. I think it was somewhere around 30, 25 to go, somewhere in that area. And he's got the lead, and he's pulling away, and he radios in, says, "How am I doing on fuel?" And they said, "You're too short. 2 laps short." That's 5 miles. Now, I've played the fuel mileage game myself in my old 17, 18 mile per gallon Ranger, and I'm thinking fuel light came on. I've got 26 miles till I get home from work. I can make it. But that last couple of miles, it's just you're feeling everything. And I honestly think I could put myself in these drivers' shoes when they're driving, because the wind hits your truck and you feel it give up a little bit as you're in the accelerator. And you're thinking, "Oh God, is it out of gas? Is it out of gas?" And you're constantly watching the tack as it's dipping down, and then it comes back up, and you're like, "Oh my God, where's this gas station at?" And I could pull off at 30, 50 gas stations I'm passing, but I'm going to my one that I love. And so it's the fuel mileage is just insane. And so that's kind of a fun aspect of it all. But man, to save 5 miles of fuel is that's insane.
Well, it's really not, because just steady and easy throttle pressure instead of coming off of off the big turn 3, just easing into it instead of just snapping it down. That's going to save a bunch. If he did that 30 times, that probably saved him what he needed. I'll guarantee you he was lifting well before his breaking point, going down the front straightaway and popping it neutral and shutting her off and having a big old coast down there. He probably coasted 4 or 5 miles in that last 25 laps.
He had a comfortable lead, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. was iffy on fuel. I think Brad Keselowski was the first car when they went back to green and everything kind of settled out and they were racing. Brad Keselowski was the first car that had enough fuel to definitely make it, so he was going like a bat out of hell.
Well, on his Facebook page, it said if we'd have had 2 more laps, it was mine.
Yeah, and I agree. And by the way, Kurt Busch had enough fuel to do a burnout and make it to victory lane, which Alex Ragazzi at the Indianapolis 500 didn't have enough to get around Indy. Well, how big is Indy? Is that
2.5 miles?
2.5 miles
same as
also?
Pocono.
Okay.
But he was coming out of 4, going for the checkered flag. If the checkered flag would have been the other in the straightaway, he wouldn't have won.
Yeah, that was so. Kurt Busch did a really good job of saving fuel, and I was really surprised because I'm listening to the broadcast and they're saying I have a feeling it was somewhere around 30 laps to go when the radio transmission came over that you're two laps short, and all the radio guys go, oh no, he can't save. There's no way he can save that much fuel. Kind of adding a little bit of drama, but just doubting it a little bit, and he managed to do it. I couldn't believe it. I really could not believe it. Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes up just a little bit short, and Brad Keselowski gets 3rd, Chase Elliott gets 4th, Joey Logano 5th, Casey Kane, Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, Kevin Harvick, and Ryan Blaney rounds out your top 10. The top finishing rookie, Chase Elliott, but Ryan Blaney was 10th. He was the second top finishing rookie. Those two are really duking it out for Rookie of the Year.
Just since I haven't even seen it, where'd my number 11 finish? Because I didn't see him anywhere in any articles.
14th.
Well, not too bad.
Yeah, honestly, that was a tough race to pick because Pocono is Kevin Harvick is really good there, and he finished 9th.
Well, Hamlin swept it before.
Yeah, and Earnhardt is really good there, and I think I encourage quite a few Pick'ems contestants to go with Earnhardt because, well, frankly, I don't think he's a good pick this year at the super speedways.
Well, he hasn't been yet.
Right.
I know from experience.
I think he has gained from Daytona and Talladega.
4
he's
points,
gotten
I think.
4 points? Is that 4 or 5 points? It's not much. It's not that, yeah.
It's in my list of races. So
Maybe Pocono would have been a good pick, and it would have been. He'd have got you 40 points, but a couple of drivers or a couple of contestants took the 41. I think there was actually 5 people that took the 41.
Really?
We have
That's
a
good.
couple more 4-win contestants, several people that have jumped into the top 3, and so the points are going to shuffle up quite a bit with these contestants making picks. And the contest is really every week it's bouncing around a lot, which is exactly what you want to see with these contests. You don't want to see a lot of stale, which we saw last year with the contest. It kind of staled itself out as this year went on, and Sonia Worth that was 2 years ago, and then it seemed like we had a lot of the top people were staying up there. But yeah, it's mixing up quite a bit now.
We're going to have to hit up old Joe and see if we can get some tickets and put together a 5-week show here for the Silver Dollars.
I've been terrible about the 5-week contests, and I paced it out. See, we got World of Outlaw tickets we're going to be giving away today, and Iowa Speedway tickets we're going to be giving away. The problem is that I don't get these ticket approvals until after the 5 weeks is over with. So
it's tough to do 3 weeks.
It's so tough because there's so many ties. Right. So it's, the
12th tiebreaker.
5 weeks is about right where it really kind of. 4 weeks is about where you start to see some separation, but there's still chances for people to jump around, and so we have to do the 5-week contest. But we'll work on some stuff. I know there's a lot of big races coming up, USMTS races. Maybe we can get some Tiny Lund Memorial races or some races at Crawford County Speedway. And
yeah, that's a ways down the road yet. But I mean, here for the middle of the summer, I think if we could talk old Joe into a couple pairs at least of Silver Dollars, maybe. And
I think it's pretty safe that we're going to get Kansas Speedway October races.
Yeah, and we'll probably get the second Newton race.
Well, and we already have the next races, like you just mentioned, the IndyCar with ARCA. So we already have tickets for that weekend. Maybe we can get the next 5-week contest put together for the August. Is that the August 1st weekend? Or it's like that first weekend in August is usually when the Xfinity Alone race is. But hey, speaking of Iowa Speedway, big announcement on Tuesday that Brad Keselowski is going to be racing there for the June 18th and 19th race weekend. So Father's Day weekend. Brad Keselowski is going to be there. So we put in a PR request to sit down with him for about 10 minutes and do a good interview and hopefully get some time with him. That might be a little bit difficult because he's kind of a big name. Former NASCAR champion, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and if his PR guy doesn't come through, we'll pull the friend card and see what we can do.
Right. Kurt Busch, ends up getting the win, first win on the season, so he joins 9 other drivers punching their tickets for the postseason in the chase and getting set for that. So again, it all kind of comes down to how many wins and how many people are in there, but you can pretty much assume that this is the part of season where we start having multiple winners, and
Correct.
those single winners, the 3 winners, they start knocking off more and more wins as we get into the heat of things.
Well, and some of your bigger car teams, I'm sure where Kyle Busch is at and where Carl's at, where JJ's at, they're all going to be doing a little experimenting, especially on any tracks that are in the chase, coming for their repeat since they've already got their win, so the win's not as important to them. But going back to what you were talking about with Newton, that second Xfinity race with the K&N Pro Series is July 29th and 30th.
Okay, so we would have just enough time if we got those tickets soon.
Yeah, we can.
I'll email.
I'm sure we're going to get them.
Yeah,
so
I'll email William and see if we're going to get those or not.
We should probably go ahead and get a contest started.
Yeah, I just got to get confirmation because I'd hate to do a contest and then he emails me. He's like, "Oh no, we can't get you the tickets." I'm like, oh crap.
You can buy them. You make all the big bucks.
And by the way, he just emailed me back. This is the great thing about instant communication, that he's going ahead and pushing that request through for Brad, so he'll know in a couple of days.
Great.
By the time this airs, we'll know if we're going to get with Brad. Hey, speaking of Brad, we got a couple of minutes left in the turn. Obviously, the race for Pocono aired on Monday. And did you hear about the whole fight between him and Jeff Gordon?
Yes.
Okay, so there was the penalty that Brad came down in that first pit stop, and the Jackman basically tried to tackle the car. And this is a move that NASCAR is very privy to, that we've seen it before. And you and I kind of went back and forth on Facebook a little bit with a listener that I remember this happening before. And apparently it happened at Las Vegas with Brad, but he didn't get penalized for it. I thought the driver that I saw did get penalized for it. I thought NASCAR brought them back down pit road and made them make the adjustment. Now, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I think it was at Kansas Speedway. But again, my memory is terrible. I did a little poke around, but I couldn't find anything as I was preparing for the show. But
the one you're thinking of was a pull out of the skirt right in front of the back tire.
I specifically remember the same thing. It was the rear tire changer throwing his hip or shoulder into the fender and popping that thing out. It was the exact same thing that happened to Brad Keselowski. But
that was another one of those dreams where you were crew chief and Tony.
Well, that could have been. But that wasn't a team order, by the way. I did not tell them to do that. I should not be fined by NASCAR. So let's just get that clear right now. That was not my fault. I do not need a P3 penalty for that. I don't have $50,000 laying around. I apparently got to buy Iowa Speedway tickets.
If you were Tony's crew chief, you would have the $50,000 laying around.
That's very true. That is very, very true. Okay, so the fight between Brad Keselowski and Jeff Gordon was that Gordon said that made the mistake. He admitted to it later on Twitter that he said that Brad got fined for that, or got penalized for that at Las Vegas when he saw his crewman do that, but he didn't. And Brad said that, Fox really needs to look at having somebody in the booth that is not biased.
Right.
And basically said, you're an owner in the 48, so you're biased towards Hendrick Motorsports, your former employee, your former team, and your friends, and to be a good broadcaster, you shouldn't have to do that. And kind of as an announcer at the racetrack, I've been accused of favoritism.
No.
And what I'm kind of sitting here backing Jeff Gordon behind is, what does it matter if I have a favoritism towards a driver? And to be completely honest with you, I have drivers that I am good friends with. I really like. I'm obviously friends with Andrew Kosiski. I really enjoy watching Jason Cole win, and I go down and talk to him in his pits every time he comes to I-80 Speedway. So I probably pay a little favoritism to him, but I have absolutely no control over anything that is called at that race. The only control I have is the microphone that's in front of me and the music that gets played.
Yeah, but the difference is you're not on national TV like Jeff Gordon is, and there's big dollars that roll on what cars getting talked about and stuff like that. Just like DW is a junior homer.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And apparently he's a Toyota homer, which I don't understand the connection between Darrell Waltrip and Toyota.
Because when Darrell Waltrip had his truck teams, they were Toyotas. He was one of the first people with Toyotas in NASCAR.
Got it. Okay. I thought they were trying to make a connection between Michael Waltrip, his brother, Toyotas, yada, yada, yada. But
that's how Michael got involved with Toyota, was through DW.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's all there.
So there's a little bit of favoritism. And I guess, you bring up that point. That's a very good point. I think there is a point to that. So just another rap on Fox. But Brad absolutely blasted him and said, listen, you got to get somebody up in the booth. He said, I got no problem with Jeff, but Jeff's obviously biased.
Do you think Brad will be back in the booth for an Xfinity race anytime soon?
Probably. Because these guys, they make comments and then they make up later on Twitter and then they're back to being buddies again. And Brad's probably got a contract with Fox to do a couple of them. And, it's never bad for Brad to have his name out there.
But I don't know. That might be fun to talk about if we can sit down with him in Newton, and I can make that happen.
Absolutely, we will bring this conversation up. So, all right, let's take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2. We're going to talk with Luke Cochran and a surprise driver about the big announcement that Home Pride Motorsports is having coming up. They're going to be doing it here in turn number 2. Then in turn number 3, Dakota Hendrick will join us to preview the World of Outlaw at I-80 Speedway and what it's like to race at the Super Center for Racing Knoxville Raceway. Turn number 4, we'll preview Michigan. So much to do, so little time. This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
My kind of road trip is a little different. Sure, it's got hours of driving with plenty of pit stops, but it's not for minivans. And this drive is one journey that's all about the destination. This is my road trip. This is my Speedway. June 18th, experience the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series 200. June 19th is the NASCAR Xfinity Series American Ethanol E15 250. Tickets start at $15 only at Iowa Speedway.
You wanted the best? They're coming 4 abreast. It's the World of Outlaws Craftsman Sprint Cars. The premiered Winged Warriors battle it out. The World of Outlaws Superstars. The greatest show on dirt is coming. The World of Outlaws Craftsman Sprint Cars return to I-80 Speedway for the Napa Outlaw Showdown. Wednesday, June 22nd. Get $5 off your general admission ticket when you purchase your ticket from a participating Napa Auto Parts store. Bring your receipt in exchange for a ticket at the ticket booth on race day. I-80 Speedway, Greenwood.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the show. Heading into turn number 2, time to talk with the co-owner, promoter, man that makes a few of the decisions, but never the bad ones, and owner at Kosiski Auto Parts, Joe Kosiski. How you doing, Smoking Joe?
I'm doing just great.
Boy, did you guys have a tough decision to make after the Bobby Parker Memorial got rained out. 34 sprint cars in the infield, ready to race, ready to put on a good show. Sport compacts, modifieds. It was going to be a good night.
Always in the middle of hot lap sessions.
We were just about done with hot lap sessions. I think we got the final set of sprint cars pushed out, ready to do hot laps. We had some great cars in the house. It was going to be a great night of racing, and then Mother Nature got in my way and put one heck of a hurting on your thinking spot. And you and Lisa had to sit down and kind of come up with a decision. So you guys decided, and I like this decision, is you're going to just move the Bobby Parker Memorial to the Thursday night prelude to the Silver Dollar Nationals.
Yep, we're going to put it on. We was running the Nebraska 360 sprinters that night anyway, and we just decided that, sounds like the right night to do it. Everybody, we started looking. We had another Friday night we could have done it. We started looking in Jackson, Minnesota, had double 360 features. Didn't make sense to try to go against them. Mm-hmm. Thursday night show, MSTS is going to be down with the Nebraska 360s the next night at Denison, Iowa. So it kind of fell into place. They're going to run Thursday, Friday now. No reason not to get a bunch of sprinters. And, what a way to lead off the Silver Dollar. And
it's a good Thursday night show. There's not a lot of weekly 360 shows. There's probably not a lot of touring 360 shows. We were going to benefit from, I think it was the ASCS Warrior Series was raining out. And there was another race that was raining out that day.
We had Jackson actually rained out that day, and so did Grand Forks, North Dakota, which brought Dusty Zomer and Ballinger and a couple of them guys down. So
is there a chance with doing it on the Prelude that you're going to get those guys back?
I believe we'll get them back with that kind of numbers, because when they leave, the ones that want to go back to run the double features at Jackson the next night, Ken, the ones that want to go up to Denison and race for the 1,000, Ken, the ones that, we're still 3 hours from home for everybody after Thursday night. They can get home and still go Friday where they want.
Fans that had their tickets for the Bobby Parker can either turn them in Now, this is going to air on the 12th, so they can either have used them at the 10th for the kids' bike races or the 17th for the kids' money grab. And the difference in ticket prices is going to be either $2 or $3, but there's no refund for that.
I'm not doing a refund unless they bring them to the office.
Right.
Basically, they can do them on the 17th. They'll trade their $13 ticket for a $10 ticket. They could also bring them to the Alphabet Soup Race, which is a great late model race on the 24th, and trade them in for a ticket for that. That's a $12 ticket this year. We're trying something new. I hope that works. And then
what's new with that ticket? Is it less?
Yeah, usually we run about a $20 ticket. And I said we're going to sell 2 for $18 up until about a week ahead of time, and one for $12, and see what it does. I'm hoping that it gets enough people talking and purchasing that it makes it worth it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to take the loss this year, and then there won't be no more cheap tickets. So everybody who's used to paying high dollars on big tickets, get out there and tell your people, where do you go on a Friday night for $12 to see that kind of racing? That kind of
and I hate to. It kind of worries me a little bit because Ben Shelton wrote an article on Dirt on Dirt last year that he convinced one of the promoters at one of the major tracks in the area, and he didn't give up who or what race it was, but he convinced him to drop the ticket prices. I think it was by $20, and he said if you drop it by $20, because that'll make the fans happy. They're going to come and you're going to double your ticket sales. He sold 400 more tickets, and they lost their butts.
No, he didn't talk him into that. That's what the article is about. Somebody else had talked the promoter into that. Yeah, Ben didn't do that.
His whole article was, we've only got such a pool of race fans that, sometimes you promoters, and what fans don't understand is, well, I don't want to pay, $20 for a ticket to go see the MLRA, the CBC, and the Mars series. But you guys got to cover what you're doing, and it's a big ticket item to cover those 3 series coming, because you got to pay sanctioning fees, and you got to get all these drivers in, you got to do all this different stuff, you got to put a purse together, and so sometimes, $20 is to make sure the track covers what they do, and probably not leave much left for you guys to go, hey, let's eat this week.
Well, that's kind of what we're worried about, but we're doing it. It might be a costly mistake that I'm trying, but
it's good that you're trying something.
I want to try something, and I figure if somebody's sitting back up maybe in the Norfolk, Nebraska area, and they're saying, should I go to Albion and watch a regular weekly show for $10, or should I go to I-80 Speedway and watch some of the best racers in the region for $12? I can afford to pay for the gas and go down and watch the better show now. So that's kind of how I was thinking about it. I'm just hoping it works and see what happens.
Your month of June and July, I wanted to get you in here to kind of preview the next couple of months at I-80 Speedway. Coming up this Friday is the Home Pride Kids Money Grab, where Home Pride Companies is going to distribute $1,000 in change along the front stretch.
Maybe $2,000.
Yeah, Home Pride is he's going to have $2,000 in change in his truck. He says if we fill the grandstands, he's been passing out tickets at his store. Anybody gets tickets and helps pass them out. He said he'll make it $2,000, and out of that $2,000, he's going to have 3 quarters or 3 nickels. One's going to be worth $100, one's going to be worth $75 or $50, and one worth $25. So it's going to be a good night. Some kids are going to really go home with some decent prizes. And Luke says, I don't mind. He says, but I want to make sure Home Pride gets enough out of it to make it work.
Well, I'm very glad he's doing, and that's kind of a cool thing. I joked with him last year. I said, it's really cool that you're doing this, and he goes, yeah, Joe talked me into it a couple of years ago, and it wasn't really hard because that was always one of my favorite promotions at the racetrack. He goes, but I didn't understand how hard it is to get $1,000 in change. Because banks don't care. He goes, Dan, I've been going around to banks for the last week getting change, and you walk in and say, I need $1,000 in change, and they give you like $100.
Right.
And so you got to go around to 10 different banks, and now he's going to get $2,000 in change. He's been hitting up banks for probably a month.
You got to order it ahead of time because they have it sent in, 3-4 days ahead of time. When we do our $2 bills, when all of our special races, we do our $2 bills, we have to order them at least 10 days ahead of time to have them ready before we can get them.
Your next big event of the year is the World of Outlaws presented by SLS Promotions, featuring the SLMR series. That's Wednesday, June 22nd. Qualifying starts at 7. One of my timelines popped up. The Facebook does these memories from when you post a couple of years ago. And it was 3 years ago when you'd gotten me the pit reporting job for the World of Outlaws, when we just kind of started getting to know each other. And I posted, guess who has 2 thumbs and is doing pit reporting for the World of Outlaws this week. And I saw that come up and I thought, oh no. no, because that was the day that it wasn't supposed to rain, but it rained all day long, and then you guys got me to go down to Anchor Inn, and things got fuzzy from there. But we won't get into that. Things got very, very.
I think that day you were saying it was fuzzily.
yeah, there was some mispronunciations of words. That's a race that it's all run through SLS Promotions. You guys just rent the facility and the employees, but then all the big guys are going to show up, and we're going to have we had such a great race last year.
Now, the last 2 years that they've gotten it in, it's been a great race. I mean, the 410 sprinters really put it on. They had a lot of lead changes and a lot of good racing going on.
Kudos to you guys. I mean, I didn't make the World Outlaws show, but I did make the fall show with the SNLs. But the 410 sprint cars, with the way your track prep has come around, it makes for a great racing service for those high horsepower guys.
Yes, it really does. Yes, sir.
Dakota Hendrickson was in here. We're actually going to play his interview next. He was sitting where you were sitting, and that's kind of funny because Dakota's next, but he interviewed first. That'll get you cross-eyed. But he said that the thing he loves about your track is that lately there's been a bottom groove and a top groove, so you're really able to move your car around and find where it works.
Yeah, and you have to. I mean, we watched Brian Brown there at the 410 show on Mother's Day weekend. He started on the pole and dropped back to about 7th, and he moved from the bottom because he was worried about some of the guys past him on the bottom. He went to the top, and he come clear back to 2nd place. So, it was just, if he had stayed up there in the beginning, he might not have lost the race.
2 days later, on June 24th, it's going to be the Alphabet Soup Race with NASCAR Weekly Racing action. I said, why do you call it the Alphabet Soup Race? And you go, list off the sanctioning bodies that are going to be there. So it's the MLRA, CBC, and MARS, or the Mars Super Late Model Series, because it's a giant alphabet of touring series. But this is a big race that's been around the area for quite a while.
This race has been around the area. It started clear back at the Sunset days. Craig Kelly started it. I believe it was at Sunset, unless he started it in the 3 years before we purchased I-80.
He started at I-80.
What, did he start it at I-80? I don't remember exactly which year it was started there. Craig Kelly had started it, so I know it's been around for at least 15 years because we've owned the track since 2004, so it's been around quite a long time.
Yeah, it was always
years?
Yeah.
Busch All-Star race when it was
the
just
13th
flown
year.
by, huh?
Yeah, this is actually the 13th year, and I'm thinking that 13th year, that unlucky number that they always tell me is unlucky. Let's see, we've lost our Spring Meltdown. We lost our Go 50. We lost Bobby Parker Memorial.
That's
Do
it.
I need
She's
to keep
done.
saying?
She's done. We're going to get World of Outlaws in. We're going to get the Silver Dollar Nationals in. We're going to get all these races in. But then you've got kind of weekly races that go for the next couple of weeks. Kids Candy Dash on July 1st. The Kids Car Ride Along, which is it's a really fun event. And I think kids really get their eyeballs get all big when they get to go and ride along in an actual race car. And then the Tribute to Rich Bellino and the Nebraska Corn Growers Night on July 15th. And then it's on. The prelude to the Silver Dollar Nationals, now with the added Bobby Parker Memorial in the Nebraska 360s, Super Late Model Touring Series, and practice for Lucas Oil Late Models in the USMTS. That's the Thursday night edition. And then Friday night and Saturday night is USMTS with Lucas Oil Late Models. Is there another supporting class that goes with those? Just those two on?
Just USMTS and Lucas Oil Late Models. And I'll tell you what, I sat down the other day and I was trying to figure out which day I want to miss of them three, because I know one of them I'm going to be sunburnt from getting the track ready early. And I don't think I'm going to miss any one of the three. And, I'll tell you what, that whole weekend, it's such a buildup.
Yeah.
When you get done on Sunday, for me and my wife, and I know Steve and my mom and dad and everybody that, puts a lot of effort in, all the help, it's like you just need to sleep almost the whole day because it just goes. I mean, we got a great band. Lucas BB Band is coming on Friday night to play after the races, and that band usually lasts from, it starts about 11 o'clock when everybody gets done, and the people that are there camping and all the racers. Last year the sun was coming up and the band was still playing because they all kept throwing money in the kitty.
What night are you going to run that race? And I hope you run it again this year, because I enjoyed it last year. Was the one where you dropped off the guys every so many laps?
I've got a problem with that race because the Spring Meltdown kind of threw a wrench in. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. The only way I can do it this year is with is if I do it with my SLMR series and ask them guys to come back on Friday night, and maybe they will. But they got to put the restrictor plates on to be back to SLMR legal. And if they're racing with the Lucas Oil, sometimes they don't want to do that. So I'm having a time trying to figure that out. We are going to do one of them races with the USMTS. Todd has put together because he's got enough races. He's got at the hunt races. He's got some races that he's letting them qualify for right now, down in Texas and different regions and different things like that to try to help build the USMTS support to come to the Silver Dollar Nationals. So we'll see what happens. Besides, this year, we're not racing a feature for the USMTS on the Silver Dollar Nationals. We're running double heat races like Lucas Oil Cars on the Friday night, and then they're going to run their Cubbies Dash, which is the race you're speaking of from last year, and then they're going to run their B feature in their they're going to run a little longer feature on Saturday night. They'll run it probably a 50-lapper instead of a 30-lapper, and it's going to pay $6,000 to win instead of paying two nights of $3,000. So it's going to be a little bit changed this year, but I think it'll help make the program move each night just a little bit better. Some of the people said, it's so hard to start at 8 o'clock. We want the track prep to be there, and we're starting at 7:30 this year. So we tried to listen to the people. We backed it up a half hour, but if the track prep doesn't come out as good, the problem is everybody says, well, if something's wrong with the track prep, we'll take time and go out and cut it for a half hour. Let's just start at 8 o'clock. But the people are telling us, hey, start at 7:30. So we're gonna try it, see if we can get the track prep right at the 7:30 range and end up
and that's always so tough because you have drivers that don't want that sun glare going down the backstretch and into turn 3 because it's right in their eyes from about 7:15 about 7:30. I mean, it takes about 15 minutes to fully set.
It's probably at that time of the year because you're in your longest days going, and you're still in the long days of the year. Yeah. It's closer to about 8 o'clock to 8:30, and right in that area. And the problem that happens if we have to stop and let it set, if the racers are on the track and keeps turning the dirt over, you're getting your moisture to kind of stay with it. Once they stop, it turns to dust on the top and it ruins the surface. So we'll have our handle on it as we're doing it each day there, but we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, maybe Mother Nature will cooperate then and maybe just give you a couple 80-degree days instead of that 95 to 100-degree stuff too.
I would love 80-degree days. All 3 days of 80 degrees. That would get rid of that number 13 year being so bad.
Then after the Silver Dollar Nationals, it's Union Night at I-80 Speedway, where anybody within Unions, Omaha, Lincoln, I think you give them out to Council Bluffs too. You give away about 40,000 tickets.
No, about 24,000 tickets will be sent out for that race. But we get a tremendous turnout from all the people in the unions. They do a great job. They love to come out and visit with each other. The union tickets have a place on them that they put down what union or what local they're with, and we draw one out, and whoever's there to represent that local will come down. We give them $300 worth of Omaha steaks. Or last year we had Kerry Orozco that had, and the race was a little earlier than July, and we asked them if they wanted to donate their $300 to the Kerry Orozco Fund. I says I will match another $300 from I-80 Speedway. So we ended up giving $600 to the Kerry Orozco last year instead of giving them the $300 worth of steaks.
I80Speedway.com. You guys have been doing really cool things with advanced ticket sales. You've been doing a lot. What I saw a lot with concerts when I used to work in the music industry was advanced tickets up until 2 days were usually $5 to $10 cheaper because that helps the promoter understand how they need to get prepared for this race. If you're going to the Silver Dollar Nationals and there's 4,000 seats sold for a Thursday night event, then you need to have more staff on hand, so it helps you prepare a little bit better. Plus, it saves the fans some money. So you guys have been doing a lot of that lately with advanced package sales. So not just buying them in advance, but also buying all 3 days. You're saving quite a bit of money.
So we do it about as much as we can that we feel we can get away with. Like I say, we're doing this alphabet soup. We're doing 2 tickets for $18. I mean, where do you go to a weekly race anymore for $9 a piece, let alone going, to a special like the alphabet soup? And Randy LaJoy's coming up that weekend also to do his Safer Racer and help all the racers try to get there. I mean, we're going to let some of our racers that aren't racing that night bring their race cars for free. He's going to go over it with them, just kind of make sure all the special points, cracks, where to look for different things, so the sport mods, the sport compacts, some of the guys that the cars have been around for a while, some of the Pro-Ams that's been around for a long time, he can maybe go through and help get them a little bit safer. I just want to make them as safe as we can, and Randy's going to be up.
What about the Facebook deal you guys did a couple of weeks ago? It was on a night that I think we ended up getting rained out, but it was...
Another one?
I know. It was like $12, and you got 4 hot dogs, 4 tickets to the races, and 4 drinks.
Lisa's trying to set that up to do that another night here coming up. I believe it's going to be in July, and I don't know the exact date. But if you watch for us on Facebook under our I-80 Facebook page, Lisa will have it out there. And it was 4 dogs, 4 drinks, 4 tickets to get in for $30.
Yeah, and I think I did the math, and it ended up saving you like $12, $16. I mean,
Well,
you
you
saved
take-
quite a bit of money.
At the $10 a piece to get in, and you're at $40
Yeah.
already, and then you
Yep.
get 4 dogs. You got another 12, and at 4 drinks, you got another 10. So you're up to like $60, $62, and you're getting it for $30 if you buy it all at one time.
That's that Iowa math working for me again, Dirk. All right, one last question for you before we got to let you go. I'm going to keep hounding you until you finally agree to do it. Are you going to go race that dirt late model race in St. Louis?
No.
You got a son that's got a late model.
No.
He's wanting to give you.
No.
We can get you in.
Joe has raced his last race. I'll tell you what.
I never
loved
got to
racing.
see you race. And
I
wanna...
love racing them kind of little tracks.
Yeah.
I love racing all the racetracks, but I haven't. I got so many things going that if I didn't have racetracks and salvage yards and different things to work, I probably would still go, well, what else do I got to do besides go take a race car and go race? But I've got too much going on. I can't put my focus where it needs to be.
And you don't want to just go out there and run in the back. You want to go out there and still be competitive.
If I'm going out there, I want to go out there to be competitive.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the winner, but I want to be competitive or have a chance to be there.
Yeah.
Did you ever go race that? Didn't they have one in the Silver Dome roughly 25 years ago, early 90s?
No, that was like in the late 70s at the Silver.
I thought there was...
Silver Dome, I don't think it was even
Scott-
around in the late 70s.
It was the one in Detroit, if I recall right. Is that the Silver Dome?
Well, that is now, but
I think
I thought it was a little
Blomqvist
later
said
than
something
that.
about a race in the 90s because we'd asked the same thing.
Yeah, we talked to Blomqvist about it, and he thought it was in the 90s too.
I thought it was earlier than that.
Either way,
because
you
I
didn't-
won the national championship in '86, and I
Right.
probably would have went and raced it if it was in the 90s. And
Well, that's why I was asking. I didn't know.
think it was before that time.
Okay.
And
Oh,
maybe
okay.
I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong, but I was thinking it was before that time. So
Joe Kosiski, get your tickets in advance for all the June and July races to come at I-80 Speedway, except for the World of Outlaws. Those are purchased at slspromotions.com, or you can pick them up in advance at all Napa Auto Parts stores.
you can get them through our website.
Oh, you can.
but
The link carries
the link
you.
directs you right to the
Okay.
SLS.
I80speedway.com, click on the schedule drop down and go to the full schedule, and it's got all the tickets. There's a little buy tickets icon next to every one of the races. You can get out to the famed I-80 Speedway and hear me mispronounce last names.
And many other things.
Some of these drivers, I just wish they were Smiths and Joneses, but I got Berghans and Posh Pischels and
All you have to do is remember Danny Smith, Jimmy Smith, Joey Smith.
yeah, that's
And they're
right.
they're all car number 7.
Yeah, thank you.
Like Jim Bob. Hey, Jim
They're
Bob,
giving
what
me
do you
grief
think?
off the mic now. All right, we'll be back to continue the show. This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
After 50 years of being America's home track, Eagle Raceway is the place to be on Saturday nights for great dirt track racing. Bring the family out this Saturday for Junior Kids Club presented by Colby Ridge. During intermission, kids 12 and under can compete in the Kids Money Grab on the Front Stretch of Eagle Raceway. Tickets for kids 6 to 12 are just $5 and kids 5 and under get in free. Gates open at 5:30 with the green flag waving at 6:30. Eagle Raceway, just east of Lincoln on Highway 34 in Eagle, Nebraska.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. Heading into turn number 3, brought to you by the World of Outlaws.
Did you pop out of gear there, buddy?
I saw something funny on the screen, and I thought, do I not have something shut off? Most of the time, it's operator error, but I'll blame it on technical difficulties just to try to save face.
Yeah, those generators there at Kansas got us twice.
It's kind of like when a driver messes up, it's never driver error. It's always the crew chief or the track or the tires.
Every once in a while, you'll get the guy to say, yeah, I done did the bad thing.
We'll see. We got a driver in studio now that's going to be racing at the World of Outlaws coming up at I-80 Speedway on June 22nd. You can get your tickets at slspromotions.com. Get them in advance. You can save yourself $5 to see the world's best sprint car 410 drivers. 410 sprint car drivers battle at I-80 Speedway, and you can get $5 off by picking up early at Napa Auto Parts stores. There's general admission tickets, there's reserved seating, and then there's pit passes you can pick up, all at slspromotions.com or in advance at any participating Napa Auto Parts store.
And if that track works out like it did last fall, I know it was an NSL show, but that was still a fantastic track and just great racing.
All right, joining us now, the driver of the number 10 Fortress Wealth Advisors sprint car at Knoxville Raceway. Did I get that right?
You did.
All right, awesome. Dakota Hendrickson, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Good to have you on the show. Chris Krug, who's a weekly announcer out there and becoming a good friend of mine. I know, I said it. I go around with some shady guys.
Listeners.
I know. I go around with some shady people, but he's been telling me, you got to get Dakota on the show. You got to get Dakota on the show. And by the way, let me just tell you, because I know he doesn't say thanks a lot. Thanks for hauling him around to Knoxville so many times.
No problem.
He's kind of a pain in the butt, isn't he?
No. I like having him around sometimes.
Do you guys give him a sleeping pill before you leave Omaha so that he doesn't talk so much?
You know, that's funny that you mentioned that because he does tend to rack out in the backseat quite a bit.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay. Because he always plays the poor me card because he's like, we'll talk on Monday and I'm like, how was it? Oh my God, I got back to Omaha at like 2:00 in the morning on Sunday morning and I'm so tired. And I'm like, yeah, but you rode with Dakota. Did you sleep? Well, yeah. Okay, so you slept on the way there, you did your job, and you slept on the way back. What are you complaining about? Oh, it's just a hard day. I like to give him grief, but let's talk about you a little bit. Talk about how you got into this whole thing. What got you into sprint car racing?
Well, a lot kind of got me into it. My grandpa at a young age bought me a go-kart. My dad had raced previously, but my grandpa bought me a go-kart, and we went out there and we started racing, and it just kind of became a weekly thing for my family and I. When I was 15 years old, we decided to get a 305 sprint car, and that was kind of a big jump for us. We went from go-karts to sprint cars, so that was a huge learning curve, but it took me really 1 year to good laps underneath my belts and to really gain some good experience. And then we decided to make a wild jump to the 410 sprint cars, and we've been racing. It's going to be my 4th year racing a 410 sprint car, and my 2nd year kind of traveling with the NSL sprints and racing Knoxville on a regular basis as well.
Now, it says you were born in Las Vegas. Sorry, Dirk. How long did you stay there?
We only lived there when I was born. I only lived there for probably a couple months maybe. Okay. And then we moved to Iowa. So.
And where at in Iowa did you move to from Vegas?
We moved to Ames, Iowa, and then briefly, and then to Ankeny, Iowa. My father had a job at Iowa State before he came to Creighton.
Okay, and so I was going to say, what brought you to Bellevue? And so that's because your dad works at Creighton now?
You betcha. Yep.
So do you have a lot of Creighton gear in the house?
Tons of Creighton gear.
Why isn't the car blue?
That's actually a good point. We
actually bird on the wing.
Yeah. We actually had the car... Actually, what's funny is when we did live in Iowa, we had the car was white and blue.
Yeah.
And it was always white and blue up until we started 410s. And then we had Dead Downwind as one of our sponsors, and they carried the bright orange and green colors. And we've kind of stuck with those colors. And now a nonprofit organization known as Rescue Me Today, based out of Des Moines, Iowa, has kind of decided they like those colors as well. Mm-hmm. And they've kind of based their colors around that too.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's kind of the same theme. Which is kind of nice. Yeah.
Talk to me about Rescue Me Now. What's that?
Rescue Me Today is a nonprofit organization, like I said, based out of Des Moines. They target those who are victims of sex trafficking. It's a startup organization. It hasn't been around too long, but there's a lot of good board members among the group and that are working really hard to target those who are victims of sex trafficking.
That's a scary thing to talk about because you think, America, first world country, we have problems, but we don't have sex trafficking problems. But it actually can be pretty bad here in America.
Yeah, no, sex trafficking's a huge problem here in America, and a lot of people don't understand, but Omaha is the hub. With
no kidding.
Yeah, it is. With
central location.
Yep, with I-80 running right through it, a lot of stuff is based out of Omaha, which is quite interesting. I think, having a driver that kind of represents, that is from Omaha and kind of can support that, I think is kind of huge as the organization continues to grow and in its future.
So where'd you start the go-karts at?
The go-karts actually started at English Creek Speedway. It's about 30 minutes south of Knoxville.
Okay.
Have you always raced at Knoxville when you've raced your 305s and you said 360s for a little bit, then up to 410s?
Yeah. 305s we raced, it was only Knoxville.
Yeah.
And I think we raced like 1 or 2 shows at like Bloomington, Iowa and Denison, Iowa. But now they got that Race Saver 305, and they didn't have that as much when I started. But and then we made the jump to 410s, and last year we did some 360s, but it's been mostly 410s and mostly Knoxville, Iowa. So
There's a couple of drivers that like to bounce around between the different size engines. Do you think that hurts your progress in the 410s if you step down to a 360 and an open 305 or even a Race Saver 305? Do you think that kind of hurts your progress?
I think racing anything really is good for you. However, I think guys tend to, when they are moving through the classes, I think if you race in a 360 too long, it's hard to get into the 410. Mm-hmm. The extra 200 and some horsepower is a big difference, especially as the track goes away, as the night goes on. But, I think the guys that run 410s weekly and then go back down to 360s, a perfect example recently is Ian Matson. Mm-hmm. He's running 410s all the time, but as many 360 shows as he can get that is not on a 410 night, he's running those shows. And he's won a couple 360 events this year, and he's looked strong in both classes. And I think you really have to be able to run the 410 first, and then that makes running the 360 easier.
Well, I'd equate that to a Cup driver dropping down in the Xfinity Series.
I agree.
Yes. If they can drive in the Cup Series, you can drive with the less horsepower, but it is a different car.
Yeah. How many times are you racing a week?
Right now, it's about twice a week. With the NSL Series, they got a good deal going between Jackson, Minnesota, and Knoxville, Iowa. They're off and on. And then there's a handful of other shows with the NSL circuit. And once the World of Outlaws kind of make their Midwestern swing, we're going to run with them.
We were talking off air about racing with the World of Outlaw guys, that you really do just need a ton of seat time to be able to compete with those guys. And you really kind of have to race at multiple tracks. I mean, you talked about Knoxville, which is kind of your home, and with the NSL, you're up at Jackson quite a bit. So how do you find another track to be able to get that extra seat time? Because there's not a lot of options out there.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's definitely the challenge. Besides Jackson and Knoxville, there really aren't a lot of options. I mean, you have Badlands Speedway up in Sioux Falls now, but they're running right against Knoxville. So that's tricky. Badlands is a good speedway. It's definitely different racing. It's a short track. You got to get your elbows up a lot more, where Knoxville's kind of the opposite. But, when you can come over to I-80 and run a good show, that's good because, like you said, just, the different tracks, you drive the car a lot different. It's just different, and it's good to get the different sides of how it is.
Have you picked up a driver that you really trust, that you ask most of your questions to? And most of the drivers, they're not going to give you their exact setup, but most of them will give you the straight scoop. If a young driver comes up and asks them, do you have a favorite?
I really don't have a favorite, but I would say there's a lot of good experienced drivers out there who do offer their opinion. I agree with you that a lot of them do not, like setup-wise, they don't want to say, oh, I like running this because, it helps me here. They do have a few secrets, and you can see that. And, I believe I'm a smart enough guy. I realize when the guy might be kind of throwing me off a little bit because that just doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. But, Craig Delancey's a good example. He's kind of a quiet guy, but he's always been very helpful towards me. There's a couple others. Terry McCarl, he's been fairly helpful. His two sons, Carson and Austin, they've been really nice to me. And Carson helped crew for us last year, and I'm glad to see him in a 360 now. But there's a lot of guys around the racetrack. There's really not one favorite I have. It's just a great community to be involved in.
When you're looking at a driver to go and maybe get some setup help with, you probably got to look for a driver that's similar to your driving style.
Yeah, there is a fine line between that. Two examples I would have is 410 drivers are Davey Heskins and Ian Matson. Ian Matson's a guy that likes to really run it in there really hard, whereas Davey Heskins is a guy who, at Knoxville makes the car stick really well on the bottom. There's definitely different driving styles out there. In order to be a really good racer, you got to be able to work both. And car setup does come into play, but the best part is finding the happy medium so your car runs basically everywhere.
If you could be the god of racing for one day, what would be the one thing that you would make about racing?
That's a great question.
And it doesn't have to be a performance issue. It could be something in a promotional side or anything.
And it doesn't have to be realistic either. I mean, it can violate the laws of physics if you want to. That's kind of the funner ones.
Well, here's kind of my unrealistic approach to this. Tires are expensive. Sprint car tires are expensive. And running those 410s and, the way we're running these things, we're just blowing the tires off the car all the time. Now, you have to have throttle control and all sorts of factors that go into it. But, if there's some way that tires were free, I think that's what I might pick.
So, like, if your last name was Goodyear or Hoosier, maybe.
Yeah. I think that'd be a great sponsor.
I'll tell you, in all honesty, the best answer we've gotten, and when we talk this, and you're going to like this answer too when I tell you, Rico Abreu told us that he would like that every racetrack in America, kids 12 and under get in free.
I would completely agree with that.
It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yes, and Rico's a very smart, talented race car driver. I completely agree with that. I mean, I don't have anything against that. The kids are what bring fans to the racetrack.
Right.
My girlfriend has a little brother who's 11 years old, and he loves coming to the racetrack. And the amount of sprint car knowledge he's gained just from being around me and coming to the racetrack is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, he's 11 years old. He just turned 11, and he's talking all about horsepower and tires. I mean, the kid even knows about stagger, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just amounts to, though, if he's not a fan in 10 or 15 or 20 years, you're not going to be racing in 10 or 15 or 20 years.
You betcha. You're absolutely right.
And another great one we had was Danny Kosiski said, let's take that a little step further and let's get more kids involved in the sport. So I'd like to have more kids on crews and helping to clean the shop and to work on the cars, because this is easily one of the most addictive sports. You get to the racetrack, you smell the atmosphere, the
methanol is what you smell.
You hear the noise, you see everything that's going on, you feel the roar of it. You get addicted immediately. Oh. And the problem that we're simply having is not getting kids out to the racetrack to experience this.
I mean, it is. It's a farce. Carl Edwards was one of our interesting ones, too. Carl Edwards said, take the splitters and the spoilers off these cars and let's go racing.
Yeah. Would you make any big adjustments to sprint cars? I know they can get pretty locked down at times, and they haven't changed much in the last couple of years. But is there a change you would make to maybe make the cars a little more loose or put the driving back in the driver's hands as opposed to it's a setup kind of a style?
With how like you said, the sprint car technology it's not changed drastically over the years. It's pretty standard and pretty simple. I think if you have a good crew, you can set the car up to the way the driver wants it, and I think that's what it's really about. You can't really have a crew guy or a team owner that has a driver come in and he's telling the driver how to drive the car.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work. You got to get the driver comfortable. And with that being said, I think you can get the cars freed up enough that they'll work.
So it's not like where the Sprint Cup's having a problem where it's so aero dependent that it's hard for these drivers to pass and really kind of hard to play. You can really free these cars up and go at it.
Oh yeah, I mean you could do all sorts of things with these cars. Aerodynamics does play an effect in sprint car racing. When someone comes across your nose, you get the air taken off the wings, and it can make the car unbalanced and whatnot. But I've driven a couple different cars and realized that the way you set the cars up and the way you build the cars actually can play a huge role in how such minor adjustments can make a huge difference in whether or not your car acts well in dirty air versus clean air.
At Daytona and Talladega, we see a lot of side drafting as a technique to break somebody's momentum or to catch up to somebody. Is there a technique that you guys have on the sprint car world that will suck somebody back to you or stop them from blowing by you?
It's so slicey and dicey, and a matter of just getting grip on the racetrack. That there's not really. I mean, I'm sure there's some really experienced drivers that can do certain things. But as far as that goes, you can definitely go in the corner, and if some guy's right above you, he can cut you off, and take the nose right off your wing. Those little things like that are examples of that. But like I said, it's sometimes you're just trying to find enough traction just to get to the ground. You have so much horsepower. It's just a matter of getting all that horsepower to the ground to get going forward.
Yeah, with the wings and stuff on the sprint cars, it's almost the same as a Sprint Cup car in the turns. If they come down on top of you, like in a Sprint Cup car, that inside guy is going to come around.
Right.
You guys can do the same thing.
Exactly.
Talk to me about the first time you went to Knoxville. Did you understand where you were at, the level that Knoxville is on? Like, did you walk in there and you were like, oh my God, this is Yankee Stadium to a baseball fan?
I always grew up around Knoxville, and I went to races all the time. We'd race karts on Friday nights, and then we'd go watch the races at Knoxville on Saturday nights. So it is definitely very imitating, but it's nothing that you can't handle. I would just say that I do realize that it's such an incredible place to race at. However, I feel like growing up around it seems so much more natural. It's definitely a tricky place to get around, but I love being there, and it's such an awesome place to race at, and the way they treat you is just incredible.
And talking about I-80, we wanted to have you on to kind of preview the World of Outlaws at I-80 Speedway. So a couple of quick questions about that. Talk to me about the big differences between I-80 and Knoxville.
There's quite a bit of difference. The banking's a huge difference. I don't think people quite understand that how the banking does play a role. Knoxville's really flat.
Yeah.
And it's such swooping corners. That place is really hard to get around. And I'm seeing really experienced drivers even have, and their teams having problems with setup. And we've had our own fair share of problems this year. But there's always something to learn at Knoxville. That's how I've always seen it. There's always something to learn. And even some of the more experienced drivers and teams, they're saying the same things. I-80, like I said, the banking's it's a lot steeper. It's a different track. The dirt's even different.
Yeah.
That's something that many people don't understand. Is dirt's a lot different. But and it's also different with running stock cars with the sprints. I love I-80. I think it's a great place to race at. Lately, the past few times I've been there, there's actually been a bottom and a top, which is kind of cool because I like how you can choose two different lines to get around the place and be racy.
Now, is the apex and the turn a little different too between the two tracks, like the difference between the front stretch and the back stretch? Bigger infield at Knoxville, I think?
Yeah. Much bigger infield at Knoxville. Knoxville's almost like a circle.
Yeah.
If you looked at it from an aerial view, it is almost like a big circle. Now you're going really, you're going straight down the straightaways, but in the corners, man, it's all about angles. And some of the angles some guys take is crazy, but it's almost like you got to drive it like a big circle.
Well, that's where you see some of the crazy slide jobs at Knoxville.
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't see some of those. You won't see those slide jobs at I-80 because of the banking.
Yes, because of the banking and because of just the geometry of the track. Yes.
Dakota Hendrickson, driver of the number 10 410 sprint car at Knoxville, going to be at I-80 Speedway for the World of Outlaws. What do you give yourself a chance to winning that race walking into it?
If we could settle for a top 10 at the World of Outlaws race here later in June at I-80, I think that would be phenomenal for our team. Like I said, we've struggled lately, but we're starting to turn in the right direction. We just got to work, and I'm with a new team here, and it's a matter of gelling. But you got to just keep racing. You got to race with the best in order to ever beat them.
Yeah, so, absolutely. You got to follow those guys to figure out what they're doing to be able to simulate it and then do it yourself.
Yep.
Dakota Hendrickson, you can follow him on Facebook. Excuse me, Dakota Hendrickson. You can follow him on Facebook. Do you have a racing page, or just like you as a?
I have a personal page on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, and I also have a website.
Oh, there's that Twitter thing too.
Yep,
okay. Yep. All right, we'll be back in turn number 4 to preview Michigan. Dakota, thanks for joining us, bud.
No, thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Oh, by the way, Dakota brought us some autographed hero cards, so we'll add that to the prize pool. And then we got to give away World of Outlaws tickets. We got to give away I-80 Speedway. We got so much to do, and only a couple of minutes left in turn 2 or turn 4 to do it.
We'll be good.
We'll be back here on the front stretch.
My kind of road trip is a little different. Sure, it's got hours of driving with plenty of pit stops, but it's not for minivans. And this drive is one journey that's all about the destination. This is my road trip. This is my Speedway. June 18th, experience the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series 200. June 19th is the NASCAR Xfinity Series American Ethanol E15 250. Tickets start at $15 only at Iowa Speedway.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
You wanted the best? They're coming 4 abreast. It's the World of Outlaws Craftsman Sprint Cars. The premiered Wing Warriors battle it out. The World of Outlaws Superstars. The greatest show on dirt is coming. The World of Outlaws Craftsman Sprint Cars return to I-80 Speedway for the Napa Outlaw Showdown, Wednesday, June 22nd. Get $5 off your general admission ticket when you purchase your ticket from a participating Napa Auto Parts store. Bring your receipt in exchange for a ticket at the ticket booth on race day. I-80 Speedway, Greenwood.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Rolling into turn number 4, just about ready to wrap up the front stretch. And turn 4 brought to you by the official watering hole of the front stretch, Quaker Steak and Lube at Council Bluffs. They have some amazing new menu items. I had this codfish sandwich the other day. It was terrific. But then they had, I'm trying to think what it's, and it's going to be terrible.
Codfish?
Yeah.
Did you know where that's a state fish of?
Alaska. right?
Massachusetts.
No, Massachusetts, because of trivia night. That's right.
I knew that one.
That's
too.
right. Man, I got to get you back out to trivia night. We've been doing pretty bad lately. Actually, we almost get one. Anyways, that's a whole conversation for another day, and we don't have much time left in turn number 4. So we've been talking about it all show long. We have Iowa Speedway tickets to give away and World of Outlaw tickets.
World of Outlaw tickets first.
I-80 Speedway. So let's give away the World of Outlaw tickets. This is going to be for 4 tickets.
4
to go to the World of Outlaws at I-80 Speedway on June 22nd.
So a guy with 3 of his friends?
Yeah.
They can buy the beer.
I don't even have 3 friends. So
I believe that.
Yeah, I got you. I got Sarah. That's it.
There you go.
That's it. Maybe Dakota. He was pretty nice to us last turn.
Good thing you get in for free.
Hey, speaking of this, let's do this trivia question. If you paid attention to Dakota Hendrick's interview, beginning of the turn and at the end of, gosh, dang it. Hendrick's son. If you paid attention to that interview at the beginning of it and at the end of it, I said his car number.
Absolutely, you did.
402-573-0590. What car number is Dakota Hendrick's son racing right now this year at the World of Outlaws? Going to be racing it at the World of Outlaws at I-80 Speedway and is currently racing it
at Knoxville.
At Knoxville Raceway. 402-573-0590. First person to call in and tell us what car number Dakota Hendrick's son is racing this year in the 410 Sprint Cars at Knoxville and in the NSL Series is going to win themselves a 4-pack of tickets to the World of Outlaws at I-80 Speedway. Now, coming up at the end of the turn, we're going to have Iowa Speedway tickets. So this is this turn. We're going to give Craig a little bit of time to get that answer knocked down and get the winner figured out, and then we're going to give away Iowa Speedway tickets. But in the meantime, let's talk about Michigan coming up today at the broadcast is at noon, I believe. Let me pause and make sure I get this correct. Yep, coverage, let's see, the green flag is set to wave at noon, so coverage will begin at 11 a.m. on Fox Sports 1, and I believe that's a PRN station, so you'll have to check your radio broadcast. Either way, it's going to be on the same station that always is here in Omaha, or you could check out, if you have satellite radio and the upper subscribers for the play-by-play broadcast, you have NASCAR radio, then it's either one, doesn't matter, you'll get them both. So that's today. The Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan. Talk to me about Michigan. The thing I know the most about Michigan, it is one of the fastest tracks on the circuit.
Correct. Big, long back straightaway, but that's not where the speed is. The speed's really on the front straightaway because it's a big arc. The track's shaped like a D. It's shaped like Iowa Speedway, except it's 2 miles around. Shaped pretty much the same as California Motor Speedway. Usually ends up being a gas mileage race, which has played some pretty interesting things over the years. But this year, we get the wonderful test of the new or proposed new aero package for the Cup cars for next year. Lower spoiler, and I think the splitter was being moved a little bit too, or cut down a little bit.
Yep, splitter was going to cut down. I think I can't remember the exact dimensions, but it was cut down by like 2 or 3 inches on a total by the 2 sides. So I think it was either 1.5 inches on each side or 1 inch on each side.
And the spoiler, I'm thinking, if I remember right, we were going to 3 inches to 2 inches or 1.5 inches. I don't remember which one they were going to.
1.5, I believe.
Yeah.
But either way, a lot less downforce. Carl Edwards is going to get a car that he really wants to play with. These guys got some extra test time about 1.5 weeks ago at Michigan.
Well, they went and did a tire test because they needed to find out what kind of tires they were going to need there. Hopefully Goodyear brings a tire, because last year when they ran they did the test on the current aero package at Kentucky and Michigan. They didn't have any tire tests, so they didn't know what kind of tires to bring, so they had the old tires, which caused a little bit of problem. Right.
It was a softer tire, so it gave up faster. Well, it didn't give up faster. It shredded a lot faster.
Right. It gave up faster,
so
used it up.
And so they were having to do competition cautions quite a bit to be able to make drivers come down and get tires, because they weren't going to last much. About halfway through a fuel run.
Well, it wasn't near as bad as what it was at Indy there 10 years ago or whatever it was, 8 years ago, where 10 laps.
No.
10 laps, caution, 10 laps, caution, 10 laps, caution. Yeah, that wasn't much fun. But yeah, this will be an interesting race. It should be fun to watch. Your guys that like the loose cars, Kyle Busch will be entertaining, guaranteed. Mm-hmm. Carl, of course, will be up there. I think Kyle Larson will be in the front again. He's been running up front a lot here lately. Mm-hmm. Martin Truex will probably be up front. He seems to be on a bit of a roll. So you're less What's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm for. Let me say, no, not your less experienced. Actually, your more experienced drivers, but aren't dirt experienced, might struggle a little bit.
Is this going to be one that Kyle Larson's going to do a lot better at because he's going to finally be able to hang that car out there?
Well, he's going to be able to hang that car out there, but a lot of times he hangs it a little too far out there. You know, he does real well for 70-80% of the race. And I
think Earnhardt was one of the first guys that really went up to that top groove and found that top groove line here at Michigan.
That top groove line with no spoiler and splitter might not be the place to be.
Yeah, maybe not. That'll be interesting to see today. All right, we got to wrap the show up. We got to do it all again next weekend, so let's do that final Iowa Speedway trivia question. In turn number 1, we made the announcement that a Cup Series regular was going to be coming to Iowa Speedway for the June 18th and 19th race weekends for the Xfinity Series on the 19th. Who was it? 402-573-0590. Now, I want to be very specific. We talked about one driver in turn number 1 that was going to be making the announcement because we're doing this on Tuesday night. Somebody else is going to make the announcement. They're coming on like Wednesday or Thursday, and so it's going to be confusing. But we talked about one specific driver in turn number 1. To get an interview with. Right. So 402-573-0590. If you know the answer to that, the first person that can answer that question, who was the Cup driver we said was coming to Iowa Speedway during turn number 1, for the Father's Day weekend at Iowa Speedway, you're going to win yourself a pair of tickets to the truck race and a pair of tickets to the Xfinity race for the weekend at Iowa Speedway coming up June 18th and 19th.
I wonder if him winning the first Xfinity Series race at Newton, Iowa had anything to do with his decision to come back and play.
It might. We'll leave it at that. Michigan at noon today. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be back next weekend with a bigger and better show. This is The Front Stretch with Dirk Houston and Dan Taylor on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
After 50 years of being America's home track, Eagle Raceway is the place to be on Saturday nights for great dirt track racing. Bring the family out this Saturday for Junior Kids Club presented by Colby Ridge. During intermission, kids 12 and under can compete in the Kids Money Grab on the front stretch of Eagle Raceway. Tickets for kids 6 to 12 are just $5 and kids 5 and under get in free. Gates open at 5:30 with the green flag waving at 6:30. Eagle Raceway, just east of Lincoln on Highway 34 in Eagle, Nebraska.